Let's try the. There we go. Hi everyone, and welcome to the stream. Luckily, I was big brain and checked that before we got too far into anything. So, there we have slightly better lighting. We have the audio working. I'm here. I have a dumb little chin beard and fancy eye makeup because gender binaries. Who's that? And um, my name is Lee. Usually with he they, but today I decided to do a little eyeliner because eyeliner is neutral and makes everyone hotter. And you know what? So we did it. Um, also, it's No Shave November, and um, you know, I'm going for it. Okay, let me see if I can get the camera a little better angle. There we go. But yes, so it is Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and so if you have a prostate, you should get it checked. Even though I know it's dysphoric for some of you. Okay, there's that. There's me. I'm Lee. He, they. I'm pretty chill about pronouns, honestly. And we are on All on the Table, which is a collective of trans with the little asterisk star. So, um, the big umbrella includes intersex and two spirit and a bunch of other, the big little asterisk trans, which they should bring that back. Honestly, they should bring back the little asterisk. Creators who do tabletop RPG content. Um, we have the Concord. We have just last week. I did a review of. I did. Nah, it's on this side now. I did a review of this, and then um, I did the first half of this review slash exploration, and Jen and Brew, I believe, they're new. They're pretty cool though. They did a character building um, kind of demo, which I watched. It's available on YouTube. And I cannot see the chat just yet. I was going to do that and then got distracted. One thing you will learn about me is I'm very easily distracted. I am doing my best because I'm on someone else's channel trying to be better about it, but um, uh, let's see. That's the one. Beautiful. Okay, so now I have it and it's muted. No one in chat so far, but okay. Yes, so now I can see chat if anyone wants to say anything in chat. I believe we are co-streaming this live to YouTube as well, if I remember correctly. And, um, yes, All on the Table is live. Okay. So, there is chat there, too. Okay. There is no one, chatting in there either. So, that's okay, though. But I just want to have it open in case we can toggle back and forth a little bit. So I can see if people are in chat. It's a little. Um, uh, and let me do one more thing. Okay, so now we've got all that set up. Let's see. Yeah. Um, Welcome. So, this is RiverBank. Last week we kind of went through some of the character creation and some of the different species you could be. There's animals with a capital A and animals with a lowercase a, and the different stuff you can do with that. We went through all the different ones we could do. Let's see. So when I do reviews, as you guys might know, I usually just kind of um, go through and talk as I go and show you guys what we're doing as well. And that is how we do. So we talked about what we need to play. There's allegedly in the back of the book. So RiverBank takes place in England, which we last week, and there's so any of the animals played are animals that exist in the wild in England. Let's see, trigger failure effects, and yes. Oh yeah, and there are 4 character stats, and every time you roll, it's random which stat you use. Which, yeah, the animality poetry is a D4 -1, and they have fancy 12-sided with like 3 and 3, set to 3. But if you don't have one, you can use a D4 -1, or Yeah, you have to do between 0 and 3. You could do it with a d6 too. Any number of dice, or any kind of die that has a divisible by 3 number of sides, you could do something with that. But yes. Let's see, d4, d6, d8, and d10. There's no d20. That is an interesting one, but you use all the other ones. Except the regular old d12. That's interesting. So instead of using, hang on, yes, deeds and side effects. Let's see what's different about this game. What do you need to play? Yes. So they don't have d12s except this fancy d12 that you, if you can't get the fancy one, you have to use a d4 instead. And hydration is important, but it's a d4, d6, d8, and d10. So not the full polyhedral site. Good to know. And then character sheets, yes, and there's all the different ones that we talked about, the different types of animal and the different stats. There's charm and pother, which is the propensity for getting into trouble. Sense, intrepidity, which is sort of guts and chutzpah, kind of actually. Charm is the other one, but they have different ones, and the stats are mostly roleplay based since you do it randomly. So we read through all the different ones you can. Let's see. Yes. Yeah, we went through all the different ones and the knacks that you can. The knacks are. Oh, these are some. Oh, these are. Oh, there's a whole list of them you can get. Choose 4 knacks for your character from the knacks. Oh, option list below. The D-type mentioned here, attention, braininess, clever pause, discretion, sway, or valor, are detailed in Chapter 2 under deed categories. Okay, we're getting to that. You can each knack only once per haphazard recycle. That's the other cool thing about this one, is that they give you an actual timer that the GM keeps. If you were a GM, the fancy hourglass would be of some sort, and they usually say set it for half an hour. And then every time, it's the same in Shadowdark actually, is that torches last 1 hour game time, and the GM had a actual hourglass, which is really cool. And so this has something similar. Every half hour, it said with the haphazard recycle, although I think you could set it either way. No, not that one. I'm trying to toggle. Oh, yes! Hi! Yes, Jen Giggles is in chat. Lovely. She's really cool. Our organizer, creator, just generally really cool. She was the game master for the Pathfinder game that we had on the channel, Secrets of Small Gods, which was pretty cool, and was also played the Harengon Wraith in our Remus, I want to say, the one that they changed the name. They don't. That's what people. John. Yeah, they went back to using John. I remember they've been. Our GM for that one flip flopped their name and pronouns, which is a very chill thing to do, honestly. People trying to find themselves, but they went. They and John, if I remember correctly, at least last I heard. I haven't spoken to them in a while actually. But they ran. Jen was with me in their game and is really cool and is in Twitch chat right now. That was my point. Okay. Sorry, distractions again. But yes, they have ones like, ooh, clever with numbers, is involving money or numbers, such as accurately calculating cost of a journey or determining how many feet of wood used to build the shed. Involving fooling people, deception, such as lying about where you were going or convincing you or someone else. Sway or deeds of discretion. +2 modifier for importance, deep breaths. Oh, so it's like, okay, calm down, and then you can take the +2 importance modifier down to +1. So that probably helps, I would say. I would imagine in a lot of cases. Let's see. Dumb chums. +1 bonus interactions with ordinary animals, lowercase a, such as dogs and cats, stable horses, wild animals, mad bulls and pens, etc. A2, +1. Contesting another character, +1 bonus to deeds with direct contest. From the Latin, the what was it, the Shakespeare line in his dramatic reenactment of the stabbing of Julius Caesar. Let's see here. I'm going to open this up a little bit more just so I can see it better. Fiddly bits. Small objects or movements for clever pause, which is probably like finesse movement. First aid. Injured, swooning, etc. You offer whatever aid makes them functional again. Oh, you don't even have to roll for it. You can just figure out what you need to do. That's a helpful one, actually. That is very useful. Flying. Oh, and then, yes, you have to take, if you have wings, innate peculiarity, which is based on the species of, and the snack, you expend one character building token, you can fly. You have to take a bunch of extra steps to get it, probably because flight is a little bit OP. So, I don't know what happens if you have the flying act and don't expend this character building token. I guess that would be up to GM Fiat how that would be doing. And then good in the kitchens, +1 bonus for cooking and baking related. They aren't essentially artistic. Delicious icing for cake, but you can't make icing flowers, which would require artsy or high art. Okay, that's fair. You can make things taste good, not look good, which is the more important of cooking related things, I will say. Good with motors is +1 deeds to starting and driving motor cars, motorcycles, lorries, trains, etc., plus simple maintenance. Probably motor boats as well, because the innate peculiarity, the water-based innate peculiarities only give you +1 to navigation and stuff, not to motors specifically, it says. Good with real boats. Non-motorized boats, yeah. See, with real boats is sailboats. Sailing, rowing, punting, paddling, plus simple maintenance. Deeds involving motorized boats use good with motors. I called it. Good with a needle is sewing machines, including using sewing machines. So can't do fancy needlework, which require artsy or high art. Okay, so it's practical stitches that, good basic practical ones that hold, which is a very useful skill set, I will admit. As someone who has had to mend my comforter multiple times because it was leaking feathers, it is useful to be able to do that. Good works. +1 bonus to deeds that directly enhance someone else's general well-being, using a deed of valor to save a kitten from a tree, or a sway deed to talk to an appalling relative out of disinheriting a friend. This doesn't include helping a friend with task or deed. Yeah, so it only... okay. So, +1 to deeds that you're doing to help somebody else, but not in... If you're cooperating, you don't get the bonus. That makes sense. Green toes. Gardens, house plants, plants grown for competitions. Alright, so that's just green thumbs, but you have toes instead. Handy is home improvement and repairs, broken tables, wallpapering, cupboard, helping paw. And the character has 7 or higher in your challenge stat. If another character nearby has a 7 or higher in your challenge stat, you can ask them for +1 bonus to your deed. They may choose not to give it, plus a d6 on a 1 through 4, even if they're willing, they prove unable to help. Oh, basically you're good at roping people nearby into helping you, so you can get that. That's interesting. High art. Creating, presenting, or appreciating pretentious art. Hang on, there were some other ones. Yeah. Let's see. Artsy is +1 to endeavors that one might consume as artsy crafts, such as making artificial flowers, icing cakes, or embroidering pen wipers. What are pen wipers? Most people paid bills or wrote their friends using fountain pens, filled with various fiddly tools or simple steel nib pens they dipped in a bottle of ink. Clearly, the possibilities for disaster were endless. But even if nothing went wrong, there was still a problem of how long it took the ink to dry on a page. What felt like eons if you were trying to dash off a quick RSVP to a party and get on with your day. Many little flannel flaps collected into a small book or curled together like a posy secured to a silver base. You carefully press one of the clean flaps onto the wet ink to absorb leftover moisture. Handmade embroidered pen wipers are exactly the sort of thing you give to your appalling relative when you need to butter them up. Yeah, you learn new things every day. A word in your ear is +1 bonus involving other animals or humans if no one else is listening or within hearing distance. So, quiet emotional manipulation. Acrobatics is physical deeds involving climbing, tricky balancing, contortions, climbing an iron fence, or squeezing through a coal bin opening. Valor or discretion are usually the ones. A culturalist, blainiest, clever, positive attention deeds. developed or semi-developed countryside, farming, orchards, herding, crossing countries, and crossing, um, etc. Crossing countryside does not count. So only in like country paths or like farm fields and such, not on the and overgrown hedgerows. Not once you get out and you're in the wilds. That doesn't count. I think. Sounds. Let's see. Um, Blarney is you can alter a foe from commonplace to negligible or from tiresome to commonplace. Does not work on dire foes or appalling relatives. So basically, if someone is not particularly is um, irate but not like super mad, you can talk them down a little bit. It seems like that. But what about now? For Swede, you can roll twice and use the highest of the two rolls in your challenge number, but you're not allowed to summon Pother or buy AP points. So what you roll is what you get. You can't tweak them the other ways, but you get essentially advantage, which interesting. Okay. And you could just take the higher and not just roll it again and keep. You have to keep the second one, which is nice. Clever riposte. I think that's how you say that. +1 to sway deeds involving haggling, persuasion, or deeds of valor related to physical fighting, provided you make snarty, witty, or defiant comment. Gloating, haha, does count. No, so you have to roleplay, really get to the roleplay of that one. But you also get hydrophiliac. +1, 2 deeds. Oh, human people. So if you, yeah, because that's the other thing about this setting is there are just humans around who live alongside animals and kind of understand the animals are as animals, capital A, as people who they don't have the right to vote, but they have social standing to say buy and sell, and it's a crime to harass them in the way it wouldn't be to say a regular old wild animal who you wanted to get off your property. You have to be more, they are people and you interact with them as such, and it's kind of an understood social zeitgeist. Mm. Mm. Caffeine is good. Um, but yeah, so that's human people. And then there's high art, and then artsy. Right, that's why we went back to see artsy. I remember this. Interrogating. No, ingratiating. Remove any appalling relative special foe status. +4 modifier for the target number, making them merely a dire foe. Oh, all right. Dire relatives are annoying cousins and such that. Let's see if I can't make this a little bit better. Yeah, that's the thing about having a stream is trying to get the displays in such a way that they. Oh, and then I can just scooch this there. Can I do a little bigger? Do that? Do that? Yeah. See? There we go. That's good for that, and yeah, it looks good on stream. That makes it easier for me to read when it's zoomed in like that, and then you can see the whole list too. That's the tricksy thing with streaming. Actually, if I nudge it over a little bit, there we go. This gorgeous little setup, by the way, the overlay, which makes it look all fancy. Here, Jen did that. She made it with the RiverBank. The art is from the, I think, as part of the basic. Hey, we're gonna give you a review copy, which is on this side of the screen. I usually stream with PDFs on the other side, but yeah, as part of getting that, she got a couple extra image files, I think, or pulled them directly from PDF and just made this cool little overlay. So everyone tell Jen how awesome it looks, because it is way cool. Let's see, gratiating, and then Master Mariner. Designing and building small boats of any sort, including major repairs. So that's if you want to like build a boat. Night Owl is +1 bonus deeds between 8 in the evening and 5 in the morning. Then you have Outdoorsy, involving outdoor activities like camping, making fires, birding, orienteering. This doesn't affect moving through outdoor spaces. So you still have to, like long treks, you still have to take that. And if you want to start a fire or find a good place to make one, or figure out where you are, stuff like that, I think outdoorsy would be used there. Physical culture, Um, +1 deeds on valor, focusing on strength, such as using human hammer, carrying heavy parcel, or lifting large rock. Little um, pinchy penny till it squeals. +1 bonus on sway deeds involving bargaining, bartering, or borrowing. Read the room. Reads the room. +1 bonus to sway on directed at more than 3 humans and or non-player character animals. Capital A. So people. Um. Uh. Directed at more than 3 human. So basically good insight in groups. And then saw it somewhere. +1 to braininess deeds. You remember having read something to the point. You kind of read widely and remember snippets of knowledge, which is helpful in certain situations. Sharp eyes. Let's see. +1 to attention deeds, and +2 involving finding pets. Yeah, that's the other thing is you can have, even though you play as small animals such as small mammals or birds, you can have pets, little like slugs or millipedes or something that you keep as companions, which I think is pretty cool. Let's see. Sharp eyes. Okay, ready. We're about to get into the, and then sleight of paw, which is just involving prestidigitation, cards, concealment of small objects, other manual trickery, snap out of it. Probably also picking pockets, although snap out of it is counteracts the side effect due challenge number used pother. Counteracts side effects if a deed challenge number used pother as the challenge stat via a roll, but not side effects from summoning pother. Okay. Alright. Yeah, you roll randomly to see which stat you use, and if you end up using pother, it causes side effects, from what I understand. We're going to delve into that a little bit more in a minute. And if you, your deed, if your stat is not high enough and you want to swap in pother as your stat, you can if it's higher, but that also means side effects. So this is only if you get pother randomly as your stat. Let's see. Sporting, +1 for sports and physical games. Swimming, +1 deeds of valor and discretion requiring swimming, or attention or clever pause deeds in the water. Takes no points of animality when immersed in water, which is animality and poetry complications in chapter 5. I think there is a similar innate peculiarity, which, if I recall correctly, we can, some of the, like, the water rats and other creatures, yes, the other one, a lot of family wrangles. Personal peculiarities. Yeah, you get the innate peculiarities, which is the ones you get from your species. Let's see. Oh yeah, otter. Here we go. Aquatic. Otters feel comfortable in the water and receive +1 bonus to deeds taking place in or on it. Swimming, rowing, and take no points of animality while immersed in water. So aquatic, if you have that innate peculiarity, you would do that the same thing. So swimming would give you that as a knack. So even if you don't have it as an innate peculiarity, you're, for example, a squirrel and not an otter, you can still like to swim as like a personal little thing and then gain the bonuses from that. The personal peculiarities are the ones that bump your stats. And some of them, it depends on what stat. Um, uh, um, yeah, it depends on, you get a choice of stats. And you get, some of them are put 2 up and 1 down. Some of them just put 1 up. And you can choose them sometimes. Let's see. Trepidity, sense, select your knacks. Yes. And then they said these are the knack tables, which are handy. And then, sleight of paw, snap out of it. Yes. Swimming, tinkerer, designing and building machines, engines, including major repairs. Thumpum, involving fighting. Alright, just +1 to fights. Up with the larks, +1 bonus, between 3 and 11 in the morning. Like, first thing in the morning, up with the larks is you are a morning person. I wonder if you could have that and night owl and just always take siesta in the afternoon. That could be, it says 3 and 11 in the morning, so if you start noon and it's 5 p.m., so you could just, I guess, have both and just have a really wonky sleep cycle. Would not be fun dealing with society, but Well, won't you give +1 bonus to sway deeds involving appeals to generosity, pleading, or begging for something? So, really good puppy dog eyes, essentially. Oh yes, you win insufficiency, and insufficiencies are the negative ones. Funny thing about having fancy eye makeup is it makes your eyes, A, it doesn't show up as much when you have glasses, but B, it makes your eyes itch, and if you scratch at them, you ruin the fancy eye makeup. It's very annoying. So you roll a d10. Impairments you roll for during character creation. Just as with an axe, the circumstance you find yourself in can trigger insufficiency, though unlike Nax, insufficiencies can come into play an unlimited number of times per haphazard recycle. Oh, that's the other thing about Nax is, yeah, you can only use that bonus once per every half-hour game time with the timer. Let's see. Affect your position on the spectrum between animality and poetry. For instance, inclined to ground may move you 1 point toward animality if you succeeded the deed. Regrettable if you are already sliding down the animality side of the scale, but quite useful if you're moving a little too much toward poetry. This process is described fully in Chapter 2, How to Perform Deeds. Yes, you roll a d10, and you have to get one of these. I think aesthetically inclined, yes. If you roll a 1 on a d6, you move a point toward poetry. And then take a moment of poetry when faced with moments of outstanding natural artistic beauty. And then there's animal poetry. If you get too far on one end or the other, you get complications. Fascinating to ordinary animals. I think we went through these, yes. And then if there are any ordinary animals around, they cause problems for you if you're rolling a d6. Yeah, you roll. So all of these seem, if the GM determines the circumstances would trigger, you roll a d6, and if you roll too low, you get penalties. Let's see. Yes, if you walk into a space clumsy and poorly coordinated, 1 on a 2, 1 or 2 you stumble. If you 2 you stumble. If you 1 you fall. 3 to 6 you're fine. New interior space each cycle. So once per entering the space, every haphazard recycle. Climb to growl. Yes, and on a D1 you move toward animality. Inertia. Moderate or greater physical activity, such as determined by the game master. A D6. Yeah, you do not tend to be kind of lazy, which is fair. Nettlesome is a D6, one level more antagonistic, so you tend to make people annoyed. Does not affect dire foes, or which is the highest you can get, or appalling relatives who are above that, because sometimes family, if you've ever fought with cousin, sometimes family gets intense. Rattled. Is a D10. Select a creature from item from the list of the following page, and then yes, and you have a mild. It's not quite phobia level, but you have an emotional issue with it. It causes you physical discomfort, which sometimes that's what happens with people. Regrettable resemblance. Yes, oh yes, whenever you meet an appalling relative, even if they're not your relative, you remind them of someone they don't like, and then you get a -1. Swooning. You tend to faint at inopportune times, and you come back pretty quick, but yeah, even if there's someone around who can do first aid, you're up right away. If not, it's a minute or two, but you failed whatever you're trying to do. 11 or higher, so it has to be something quite difficult. Wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah, group coordination not your strong suit. Let's see. Oh yes, and then Corvid, ordinary crows, foxes, cats or dogs, farm geese. Okay, geese are, yeah, that's a very reasonable thing to be rattled about. I have that one with wild turkeys. They do not say well with me. Let's see. Ordinary animals a size larger than, smaller, or same. Yeah, so ordinary animal staff lock chapter 3. Humans in uniform, postal workers, constables, vicars, investments, judges, people in academic robes, etc. This is an interesting way of writing etc., by the way. It's etc. Human children, motor cars, electrical edge power, string. I do not know string, but people, yeah. Oh yes. So this is where it gets interesting. So we have entanglements. Two types of connections are nearly guaranteed to make your life more difficult. First, appalling relatives are foisted on you by circumstance. Characters usually have one, two, or even three appalling relatives, though you can expend character building tokens to remove them. Explained in Step 7. Unless you have it is dependent peculiarity, which means that they are which means you have to have at least one. Yes. Second, pets are entirely voluntary. In fact, to have a pet, you must take has a pet personal peculiarity and expend a character building token. So it's the same thing with flying, where you need to expend. At the RiverBank, animals understandably have squeamish resistance to making pets of even the smallest mammals, reptiles, birds, or amphibians. So every pet is an insect, arthropod, or other invertebrate. Yeah, because the frogs, if you have friends who are squirrels as people, having one as a pet is a little bit, yeah. Dogs and cats, well, they're also much bigger than most animals, capital A, and or not bigger than, but about the same size as, and having predators as pets, it seems like a bad idea if they're not, I mean, humans are insane like that, but let's see. Human constables, raging bulls, and roadie stoat gangs are very dangerous, but an animal's worst foes are appalling relatives, the dragons of the RiverBank. Learn more about foes in the next chapter. For now, it's enough to know that few non-player characters are negligible as foes. A few are negligible, meaning not really foes at all. Most humans, animals, and animal capital A non-player characters are commonplace, tiresome, or dire foes, increasing the difficulty by up to 3 points. But beyond these are appalling relatives, the worst sort of foe, even worse than human constables and angry bulls. It's +4 modifier to a foe's difficulty. Practical or emotional hooks. If the character, family bonds, or financial entanglements, being the most common. These are often aunts, uncles, or great aunts or uncles, though other relationships are possible. Appalling relatives usually do not reside nearby, but in these modern days of motor cars, trains, telegrams, and telephones, they can contact you or even visit from anywhere at any time. Appalling relatives are always well off, though they may not admit or even think it's true. If you selected is dependent personal peculiarity, you automatically get saddled with an appalling relative who gives you an allowance, at the cost of being at their beck and call, but even characters who do not depend financially on appalling relatives usually find themselves haunted by one. Let's see. Never hesitate to make demands on your time and resources. Sometimes these seem innocuous, such as running to town to select fabric to replace the curtains in their breakfast room, but there's no saying this won't go wrong somehow. That's the thing about RiverBank. It's all about the day-to-day that goes wrong, and shenanigans ensue. Little things. Never stop with mere inconvenient errands. They may invite you to spend Christmas with them, taking you away from your friends at the jolliest time of year. They may send some horrid cousin to live with you until they get over a broken heart or a bad influence. They may expect you to take care of their vile pet spider while they spend 6 weeks in a spa in Germany, and they may demand that you attend them in person, condemning you to a Gehenna of pushing their bath chair, which is 32, which is sort of a not chairs one bathed in. They're invented in the town of Bath. They're basically small wheelchairs. Yeah, some could be steered, but they all required someone to push them. Yeah, so it's sort of like a wheelchair. It's interesting. Playing Picket. What is Picket? Card game. Yes. The closest thing to a character is being forced to leave RiverBank for an extended period of time, accompanying Pauling relatives on a tour of the Pacific Islands, or a rest retreat in Patagonia. If you do not depend on them, how can they affect you in so many concrete ways? Apply different levers. Some are blustering and bossy. Others present themselves as failing and fragile, wielding tears and a damp handkerchief as their greatest weapons. A few are actually quite jolly, but as implacable as the others. Some do not even ask for anything. They just put you into situations where it becomes impossible to avoid their demands. Lady Elspeth Dragomir, a rabbit, is legendary for having informed her young niece Dinella that they were spending the winter together in Corfu only at Pote Dock, where Dinella had accompanied her to assure bon voyage. Appalling relatives' main purpose in the game is to make things worse for the character. They are irrational, encroaching, and domineering, though they also should be entertaining. In literature, Bertie Wooster, a human, in P.J. Woodhouse's Jeeves and Wooster books, finds himself with a plethora of overbearing aunts who are judgmental and dictatorial about everything from his ties to his marriage prospects, though, to be fair, so is Jeeves, his ally. Bertie spends much of his time truckling to or avoiding one aunt or another. Even his good and deserving aunt, Dahlia, is the primary engine for chaos in his life. That's true. Even your appalling relatives are. Even though you love them, they're a lot to deal with. We've all been there. At least most of us. Where you have one like you love your sisters. It's just sometimes it's a little much, and you end up or also small children, relatives who are small children. It's they get roped into stuff, and you're like, I do not necessarily want to be doing this, but I love you, so I will. It's you know roll on or select from the following tables, game exercise, and record this information character sheet. Yes, you have one appalling relative and are obligated to see if you have additional ones. So here's an example one. Mrs. Peebles, hi, Cynthia, a goose, a great aunt, maternal side, elderly, she, her. Uh, Dotes, but not usually on you. Not angry, just very disappointed, and doesn't act their age. Put you in a situation you can't say no. Yeah, she almost gets married a lot, so apparently she has all sorts of near betrothals. Interesting. Mon Repos, large home in fen country in eastern England, old castle, filled in moat that gets marshy and wet weather, which is always. Nearest town is 7 miles away. Spends a lot of time in London at the Rackham Hotel. Does a lot of fancy needlework that she never finishes. She's always sending giant projects home with me and expecting me to finish them. Widow never stops talking about dear Jaffod. Not all the stories can be true. Oh, that's my Mrs. Jaffod. Okay. Because she hasn't remarried. She has the excessively formal use of her husband's name as. Everyone has to listen to her read sermons in the evening. Ooh. She has 6 young adult grandchildren. She always wants me to invite for visits. Let's see. Okay. So then you have these tables. How many appalling relatives do you have? 1, none. Yes, you now have 3. So it's how many more do you have? Yes, if you have 2 or more. Yes, so you roll for age with the d6. Elderly ancient is over 80, over 65. I guess they have similar lifespans to humans. Of middling age, the equivalent of Edwardian era humans in the late 30s and 40s. Oh, okay, I see. So it's not exact age, it's more what age bracket would they be compared to humans. Some peculiars, they claim to be in poor health, bad eyesight, bad tempered, batty, caustic, changes their mind a lot, clingy, contrarian, dithers, doesn't act their age, domineering, dotes, probably not on you, drones on and on, early to bed, early to rise, which kind of sucks if you're a night owl, I will say. Emotionally needy, erratic, fidgety, forgetful, formal, full of odd theories about food. Yes, we've been there and seen that. Gloomy and full of dire predictions. Hard of hearing, but doesn't admit it. Yeah. Has a cane and threatens people with it. Has an adored pet. Has terrible pet like a wasp or poisonous centipede. Has weirdly inappropriate pet like an ordinary chicken. And this is the percentile. Oh, so they do have percentiles. You only use them for this. Has multiple pets. Indolent. Judgmental. Loves to talk about their will. Muddled. Nervous. Nods off at inopportune times. Nosy. Not angry, just disappointed. Not at all well, but doctors just don't understand. Yeah, that's the tricky thing. Sometimes it's mental, and sometimes you just have something chronic that's really hard to diagnose, and it sucks either way and is annoying for you and everyone around you. Obsessed with ancestry, obsessed with cleanliness, obsessed with gardening, obsessed with what's beyond the veil. Obsessively saves something. Bottle caps, hair, coins, object found on walks. They have collection, an odd collection. Physically sprightly. Picky. Prefers it was the way it was in Victoria's days. Yes, that kind of thing. Quarrelsome, rude, talks about their past all the time. Wildly irresponsible. Writing their memoirs, which are red hot. Writing their memoirs, which are very dull. What we think of as bottle cap, invented in 1892. It was called a crown cork. So called because it resembled Queen Victoria's crown, though it was not cork. It does the same thing as cork. And their greatest weapon. What kind of emotional manipulation tactics they use? Act as though you've already agreed. Put you in a situation where you can't say no. Showing up uninvited. Forcing young relatives on you without warning. Tricking you today in London. It turns at 2 months to the south of France. explains to you endlessly why you are not wholly wrong to see things their way. Why you are wholly wrong not to see things their way. Promises you something you want. Their cook's recipe of cream scones, the tea set you've always admired. You don't always receive it. Threatens to tell people the deeply embarrassing things you did in your youth. They have pictured you quite unclad on a furry rack. Threatens to come and stay. Sometimes they do. Starts to act feeble, tremulous paws, palpitations, fainting spells, recourse to smelling salts, and harsh art stored in water. They may mention their advancing years. Start to talk about their will and whether or not you or anyone else will be in it. Tries to make you feel guilty about either your own advanced years or your obligations to the family or another higher power. Guilt trip. Troops about acting weary and dramatic. It does not mean they don't employ other leverage. This is just their most common mode of manipulation. Appalling relatives attached to the is dependent peculiarity have an additional weapon, threatening to cut off allowance. When they summon you away, where are you going? They can drag you other places too. They have a remote cottage some miles from the nearest train station that doesn't have gas or electricity. Everyone goes to bed as soon as it gets dark. You'll be sleeping where they stash the broken furniture. They have a remote castle, perhaps in Scotland. 54 rooms, and 48 of them are damp and have water stains on the ceiling. But this is an ancestral home, so it must not change. The remote stately home. They inherited their married money, so it is all very nice, but they have quarreled with all of their neighbors, so you receive the cut direct from everyone on the street. That means they, let's see, we talked about this. Let's see, cut direct is, yes, ammonia. Ammonia in water, which certainly would make them sit up and take notice. Okay. Ash thorn is natural. Act as though they not even exist, for instance, entirely ignoring them as they pass. A deep freeze is a variant. You stare directly at them for a moment, looking as though you've just smelled something foul, and then you give the cut direct. Animals of RiverBank are, of course, much too nice to apply this, but appalling relatives are capable of anything. Yeah. Let's see. Yes, they completely just ignore you, which is pretty... Like, there are levels of that, and that can be psychologically mess with you a lot. Let's see, they have a tiny convenience flat in London. Have a guest bedroom, but since you're going to be there, I might as well put you to use. So let the maid go during your stay, and you find yourself in charge of their pet. Rackham House, which is the hotel that apparently is a very nice hotel in London. Best hotel in London that caters to animals. Yes, they have smaller scaled rooms. Wherever they normally live, they've decided to a trip to town as an order, perhaps to visit a medical specialist, update their wardrobe, meet friends, or get to the sort of trouble they can't manage at home. Great travelers, and you will be coming with them, planning itineraries, carrying bags, making sure the sheets and inns are not damp, negotiating with chauffeurs, and the like. So you're traveling around the world or something. Health spa. They've been ordered to bath or Tunbridge wells to drink the waters. You will be entering them in the pump room, rolls, and then it'll be your task to escort them to whatever valetudinarian activity is on the slate for today. Hypochondriac. Yes. It's not their house, but someone else's. They make engagements for you at the houses of friends who need useful younger animal about for a bit. Or they send you to a remote relative who needs a cataloger for their library or a secretary to get their memoirs in order. Or they find you a job at a bank or fishmonger's where you're expected to learn business from the ground up and perhaps in time become a less further and more productive member of society. Their bedside. They know they are dying, and you must come to them at once to hear their last lingering words. This may be a sincere request, but it is far more likely to be a cunning ruse. Or they believe it's a sincere request, and then it turns out they're not actually dying, they just think they are. Which is just not fun for anyone involved. Ooh, they're wedding in London. They should know better, but they have decided to marry someone entirely unsuitable. This happens every so often, and once the fianced one invariably turns out to be a terrible choice. The reasons why vary according to the appalling relative in question. So usually it's probably like engagements, and they're gonna get married, and then they have multiple times where it gets called off. Let's see. And then they have pets and finishing touches. Oh yes, for the characters. For the appalling relatives, have a name for their home location. Remote. Is it closer to where you are? Is it in your town, Sussex or Kent? And then, appalling relatives is the same sort of animal you are, but you can find yourself adopted, formally or otherwise, by someone who applies all the same moral pressures a blood relative would. Yes. Name, sort, and description, their home, any servants, friends, companions, or relatives, or pets that might turn up in later game sessions. If you loved a peculiar characteristic that you didn't roll, include it here. Add these details. Okay, pets. If you yes, it has a pet peculiarity. I think we went over these. Yes, pet owner. These domesticated insects, arthropods, and other invertebrates have bred to be larger and longer lived than their wild counterparts and may behave quite differently. Once you've selected a type, name it and add it to your details about attractive leashes, cute beds, and so forth. Record this information on your character sheet. Pets are not usually caged or kennels except at night, and often not even then. A pet will want to be with you as much as possible. If you leave them at home alone, they may retaliate with horrid sounds, stenches, and dramatics. Following are the descriptions of popular pets. It is your game master whether other insects or invertebrates might be as pets, so if you are mad for a pet centipede, do a bit of research and ask. Each description here includes a comparison to a human pet to give you an idea of the general personality. Bees are 2 to 4 inches, gregarious and deeply affectionate. They pine if left alone for too long, so rich bee owners often hire bee maids to keep them company. If you let them off the leash outside, pet bees will bring pollen back to their beds and build small wax hives there, producing a bit of honey, though no loving bee owner would consider removing the wax or the honey. So, Bichon Frise dog. Alright. They can fly, and they create these little hives, and which are attractive and sweet smelling. Then you got beetles. Whenever, cockchafer, beetles. Whenever the game master thinks something has risen to the level of bothering it, said beetle, you have to roll a d6 on a 1 or 2. Begins a deafening buzz and does not stop until someone placates or moves from the area. All of them can fly. Let's see, this one, the cockchafer, I believe that's how you say that. Bought in for 3 to 4 inches, chunky and clumsy, but pleasant-looking beetle. Has a fan-like antenna, chest of brown wing covers, black body. Not for everyone, because when surprised or annoyed, it makes an extremely loud buzzing sound. Medium-sized, noisy mutt. Okay. Ladybird, 2 to 3 inches. Ladybug, for us Americans, is one of the most popular pet of all, and there was a time not so many years ago when every young animal, had a ladybird companion with leashes coordinated to every gown. They have a wide variety of spot patterns. It's kind of King Charles or Cocker Spaniel. Okay. Stag beetle. Let me know if I'm going too fast or you have questions or want me to repeat stuff. Let's see, what do we got? I might have gone, I feel like I might have gone, or maybe I just read it myself. Because I remember I was hustling to read the last of the Knacks on Thursday. Because I do have a day job and I streamed before and there's a lot here. Let's see, body length of 5 to 8 inches. Mastids of the insect world, large, dark. Yeah, 5 to 8. The other ones are like 2 to 3. Okay. Large intimidating beetles with massive antler-shaped jaws, but they are calm, amiable companions. Compared to an English bulldog raised as a pet, it sounds actually more like a Rottweiler, where they're like big and scary looking, but they're like sweethearts. Beetles don't have enough strength to injure anyone with them. Oh, that's good. Butterflies. And they have diurnal. If night falls when a butterfly is out and about, it collapses and has to be carried and put to bed somewhere. All butterflies can flutter. Water reverse. If they're gotten ready to snow, on a 1-2 they manage to pull out of their leash and otherwise escape somewhere nearby out of the weather, such as a branch of a tree. So yeah, if it starts to rain, they'll panic and, let's see. And then they talk about the type of butterflies. Wingspan of 3 to 4 inches. Fritillary, a small butterfly with vivid orange, yellow, and white wings. Lavish black or sometimes white speckling can produce surprising stained glass effect. Fast, busy, and active compared to a Shetland sheepdog or an Australian shepherd. Bouncy herding breeds always got to be doing something. Monarchs are 6-inch wingspan, so they're pretty big. An American import. The monarch is one of the few foreign pets common among British animals. This large butterfly has black veins and white spots over an orange body base color. Extremely expensive and scarce. As pets, they are not overly bright compared to your golden lab. People say that labs are intelligent. No. Labs are a little dense sometimes. Sweethearts, most of them, but sometimes a little dense. Then you got skipper butterfly, which has 3-inch wingspan. Compact butterfly, usually shades of orange, gold, and brown, with black and white specks and black wing edges. Quite aggressive compared to Jack Russell Terriers. Okay. Aristocats. Let's see. Wingspan of 4 to 5 inches, so a little bigger than skipper, but smaller than a monarch. Are Britain's largest and most beautiful butterfly. It can have dramatic eye spots, bands of color, elaborate wing edges. Perhaps the most popular as a pet is the Camberwell beauty, which has chocolate brown wings fringed with white and a line of blue dots. Compared to glamorous dogs such as the Afghan hound, or Saluki, or Persian cat. Cricket, 3 to 4 inch body length. Ancient and well loved pets. Crickets are plump and black with prominent feelers and hind legs. People say that singing brings good luck to a household. Talkative tabby cat. Once per session, the game master determines roll a d6. Yes, on a 1 to 6, it begins singing and just will not be quiet. Damselfly. Wingspan of 5 inches. Look quite like dragonflies with extremely long, slender bodies, 4 narrow wings, large, widely spaced eyes. They're not very good flyers, but nevertheless hunt other insects. Sometimes they stray from their owners if they see a really juicy-looking ant. However, they can be quite protective compared to a greyhound or a deerhound. Diurnal. If the night falls when the damselfly is out and about, it collapses and has to be carried off to bed. Fluttering, so not quite flying, but can kind of move out and about. And water reverse, so very similar to butterflies in their characteristics. Millipede is about 1 to 6 inches long, can be quite long. Long and shiny black millipedes may have many, many legs that give them rippling motion as they walk. When frightened, they curl up into a spiral to protect their bellies. If they are further bothered, they eject a nasty and very smelly fluid. Millipedes make no emotional connections, but their owners cannot be convinced of this, and all too often dote on them and bring them everywhere. Compared to, well, millipedes. Noxious smells. When the game master thinks something has risen to the level of bothering a millipede, a d6. On 1 to 3, the millipede curls up tightly for 10 minutes. If someone moves or jostles the millipede during this period, it expels vile-smelling liquid or vapor that gives everyone within a feet a -1 penalty on all sway deeds and deeds of discretion until they can bathe. If they are preparing food, the smell affects the flavor. Yeah. Okay, fluttering. Moths can flutter. Squeaks. It's like having a pet skunk, I guess. Sort of. People do keep pet skunks, usually with the scent glands removed. They can be kept as pets and are, in fact, quite amicable. However, having the scent glands, I don't think it's quite skunk level, but it seems quite a similar theory. Moths also flutter. Squeak. Oh, hawkmouth squeaks. Make audible squeaks when they feed. When characters are reading, roll a d6. On a 1 to 3, the moth starts squeaking and will not stop until either someone moves it from the area or gives it honey as a treat. So it begs for food, basically. Snails. Hang on. It's the millipede. And they're also water averse. They have the thing where if they get caught out in the rain, they are going to freak out. And then they have the emerald moth, with the 4-inch wingspan. Geometer moth of pale blue-green laced with delicate white tendencies. Flies in loops, tipping over entirely as it advances, compared to a Shih Tzu or other ornamental lapdog. Then hawk moth has the 6-inch wingspan and the little begging for food squeaks. Many varieties of hawk moth have fat, pointed bodies and comparatively narrow wings. Animal readers of Mary Shelley and the Gothics have special preference for these death head hawk moth, which has actual claws and quite exciting skull patterns on its back, though most varieties are not nearly so dramatic. They are friendly if a little stubborn, compared to Doberman Pinscher or a Rottweiler. Okay. Pillbug. Body length is 3 to 4 inches. Pillbugs, also known in England as woodlice, potato bugs, and parson's pigs, elsewhere as roly-polies and doodlebugs, are tiny terrestrial crustaceans. They're best known for rolling their bodies into tight balls. They are an intellectual's pet and a special favorite of paleontologically minded animals. Many pillbug owners train them to curl up, then roll them gently, in an activity the pillbugs seem to enjoy and even encourage. Compared to rabbits, especially rabbits trained to run obstacle courses. When the game master thinks something has risen to a level of bothering a pillbug, roll a d6, and it will curl up. On a 1 to 3, it will curl tightly up for 10 minutes. Same as the millipede, only it doesn't do the scent thing. Snails, up to 4 inches high, developed from common garden snail. Pet snails have been bred to improve their beauty in their shells. Shades of green, purple, and gray and cream are common. They move extremely slowly, so most snail owners invest in charming snail baskets and carry them about, compared to any small dog carried about all the time or a ragdoll cat. Slime trail. Snails can leave an embarrassing trail of slime, so many others carry slime linens, beautifully embroidered whitework cloths for tidying up. Spiders have a body length of 1 to 2 inches, so they're small. Four-spotted orb spiders have become the most common novelty pets among animals, the equivalent of a hamster or guinea pig. They have round reddish bodies with white dots and lines, and build what most of us think of as classic spider web. They're the least creepy looking of the British spiders. Owners should find outdoor space for their spiders so we can spin web somewhere other than the parlor. Or you could just have a web in your parlor. That works too. The author apologizes. Someone always wants a pet spider, and there's nothing she can do about that. She has tried to make this as unscary as she can. Okay, yeah, that's true. That spiders tend to be polarizing. Yes, so step 7 of the character creation process is, do you have appalling relatives and pets, and what you can do with those. Characters have access to the basics of life. Certain needs or desires may require expending extra resources. When crafting your characters, you receive tokens you can use to acquire these exceptional items. The exact number of starting tokens depend on whether you have certain personal peculiarities. Is comfortably off 8 tokens. Dependent have 7. Is poorish have 5. If 4, in all other cases, you have 5 tokens. So, yes, if you have different financial statuses as part of your peculiarities, you can get different amounts of tokens. You also receive character building token at the end of each game session, which can be spent, which you can spend or save toward other exceptional items you may want. So if you, so if you wanted to be able to fly, for example, you could take the knack, and then if you didn't have any character building tokens left over, you could wait till the next game session. You just wouldn't be able to actually fly in the meantime, which means it would be a useless knack. But what are you going to do? Let's see. Track them where indicating on your character sheet. Items on the following page cost one or more tokens, as does, if I recall correctly, you can get rid of an appalling relative for using a token. You can... Flying requires a token, and has a pet requires a token. If you spend any on boats or vehicles, record this detail of your character sheet under vehicles. If you improve your home, this information under home. So you can get, let's see, a bicycle. And then how much it costs. Camera. Nice animal-sized camera. Let's see. Small darkroom. Coal stove. Can replace an open wood fire in your hearth. Much cleaner, warmer, and easier to keep lit. But you do lose a little charm. Flight. You can fly only if you have the wings innate peculiarity, flying knack, and spend a token. Many winged animals choose not to fly, considering it a bit low class. Gas laid in. So you have... propane in the kitchen for cooking. Using wood and or coal fires, lamps, and candles. Gas grants a plus 1 bonus to cooking and baking and nighttime clever pause deeds in your house. Gramophone. Stack of records. Classical dance band, opera, popular sentimental songs, ragtime, or spoken word. And a wind-up Victrola phonograph with a beautiful flower-shaped horn to play them. Ooh, an in-house telephone. You have to go 3 for... Yeah, for that or gas, which makes sense. Don't have a telephone, you can always make and receive telephone calls at the postal service, stores, or rely instead on letters and telegrams. But if you have an in-house telegram, you can call anyone you want. Unfortunately, your appalling relatives can also call you up at every hour. A very small motorboat. Yes. Motorcycle. Smaller than a human one, but seem large proportionally to the animal riding it. One can ride along some, but not all, rights of way, depending on Game Master's assessments of the path and recent weather, but this would be illegal. Okay. Oh, so some... Okay. Musical instrument, a large one. A piano, harpsichord, pipe organ, or harp. And then an odd one, is 2. Timpani, koto, hard, anger, fiddle, etc. Lute, guitar, recorder, so small one, and a small musical instrument that's human portable, you can get with just 1 token. If it's unusual, you have to take 2, and then if it's something like a piano, you have to do 3. Okay. No appalling... Oh yeah, if you have 4. Rather than adding things to your life, this choice removes 1. You have 1 fewer appalling relatives. However, if you have the dependent peculiarity, you must retain at least 1. You can select this option only during character generation. After this, you have no power to remove the appalling relatives. Oh, you have to spend a whole 4 to remove them. Alright. Pet if it has a pet peculiarity, you must expend a token to acquire a pet. Oh, postal home delivery. Your mail is delivered to your home twice a day before 9 in the morning and early in the evening. Otherwise, you pick up your mail at the postal service or stores or from a neighbor who has home delivery. Okay. Rowboat or punt. Small boat makes it easy to cross the river and faster to travel along it. For more information, see the boat sidebar. So if you want a motorboat, you have to pay 5, but if you only have 3, you can get a rowboat. Sailing boat or sailing. Small ketch or catboat makes it easy to cross the river and faster to travel along it. A sewing machine makes you faster and better at sewing clothes, sails, and things from the home and elsewhere, giving you a +1 bonus on sewing deeds. Typewriter. Faster and better at writing letters and writing in general, gives you a +1 bonus in deeds involving writing. Vision aids. Have spectacles, eyeglasses, or a pince-nez, or monocle that improves your eyesight and negates any negative effect of the weak vision innate peculiarity. So if you have an innate peculiarity that has vision, you can spend a character token to get glasses, and then you have glasses. Oh, yes, I know how those are expensive. Believe me, I have them, and they are... yeah. Wardrobe of exceptional nattiness. I've acquired a beautiful collection of flattering clothes to give you a +1 bonus on sway deeds, involving strangers and humans. You dress well. Having a nice wardrobe is incredibly, having a good suit is... It's a token, I will say. Having a nice suit is having nice clothes does up your game, but they are expensive. Well-stocked workroom. Boating, ceramic garage, homeowning, kitchen, machinery, metalworking, painting, sculpture, woodworking, etc. This not includes tools, but also bits and bobs that can prove so useful for improvising: cogs, old iron, extra canvas, planking, glass planes, unusual spices, or whatever kinds of stuff you'd particular type of workroom needs. So you have a really good setup for whatever your chosen art or craft is. And then those are that ones. So rounding out. So once you have, you spend all your character tokens, and you have your appalling relatives, and maybe a pet, and then you get to the rounding out. And I can, some of this stuff, they went over building characters on Wednesday. Yes, travel has room for adventure and travel far from home, but much of the game stays in the well-known landscape of RiverBank, alongside familiar neighbors. As a result, created character includes a lot of details relevant to role-playing that you might ignore or minimize in, for instance, a game featuring dungeon crawls or military maneuvers. Character details. Suggested surnames appear in earlier chapters, but animals can have far odder names than those. You might choose to come up with something remarkable. Title and honorifics. Usual honorifics for untitled Britons at the time is Mr. for adult males, Mrs. for married females and adult females who like gravitas of the honorific, Miss for unmarried and young females, or Master for young males, but others are possible. For a full list of titles, see the non-player characters in Chapter 3, though some may not be relevant. For reasons apparent to none, one places a period after Mr. and Mrs. in the United States, but not in the UK. Oh, interesting. Huh. I don't know. Do they in Canada? That is a question we will have to ask Canadian friends. 1913 was the first recorded use of the word teenager. Interesting. Pronouns. Embracers gender diversity, yet it's solidly set in a mythic pre-war England when non-gendered pronouns had not evolved to their current state. This list may prove useful to game masters and players who wish for gender-neutral pronouns that are not anachronistic. They, them, themselves has been used as a singular non-gendered pronoun for many centuries, just as a historically plural you became normalized as a singular pronoun. They, them could have been used at the time of RiverBank. The first recorded use of they, them as a singular dates back to a manuscript from the 1400s, before English had standardized spelling, and they were using the theta, they didn't have the th, they had the what's it called? They had the thoth, I believe it's called. It's it uses the IPA for the th sound, not the th sound. Yes, English does have two distinct phonemes that use the th sound. It is two different sounds. Think about the existence between the words teeth and teeth, for example. So yeah, the first the was written using not even th, but the old English, the thorn, I believe it's called. Yes, that we do not have in English anymore. So yes, it goes back centuries. EMM self was proposed in 1841 by Francis August Brewster based on an Old English pronoun. Thons was proposed in 1884 by Charles Crozat Converse based on a different Old English pronoun. There you go. So they have some fun ones if you want. If you have NB animals or ones, you can try out some ones that were used historically. Age. Characters fall into 4 general age categories. Non-player characters can belong to several age categories unavailable to characters as described in Chapter 3. Quite young. Between 14 and 20. So, teenagers, essentially. Which was first recorded in 1913, apparently. Adult. Animals are the equivalent of humans in their 20s and early 30s. Middling age are the equivalent of animals in their late 30s and early 40s. Animals that are getting on a bit are the equivalent of Edwardian humans in their 50s and early 60s. So I would be somewhere between adult and middling age. Oof, I'm feeling more middling age thing more and more because hard work wears out your body. And knees, actually it's my back that bugs me, but human knees just are not meant. Animals have better knees actually than humans do. Human knees are just not designed well. Best time of day. The sort of animal chosen determines the best time of day, but your character's personal preference may mitigate it. Size and sociability. Animals sort identify their typical size and sociability levels, but your character's personal preference may affect it. One assumes that the animals of RiverBank like spending time with their friends. Other family and friends. RiverBank are seldom hard-bitten loners. You almost certainly have an appalling relative, but you probably also have other personal connections that live far from you. Siblings, parents, friends from your early pup or kithood, and the like. If you wish to have relationships hovering in the background of your life, list them with their names, relationship to you, relationship to any appalling relatives, general location, should these family members ever become a non-player character. You may also find yourself with hitherto unknown cousins at the game master's discretion. They can invent cousins for you if they have to. I've done that for my players. We're like, oh yes, by the way, one of our players who plays a character called Saris came up with, sibling, parents, aunts and uncles, at least on her mother's side, and then father's was just, well, he comes from a good family, and that was it. So it's like, all right, well, also he has a sister, and she has kids, and she's a viscountess, and now you have cousins, who are, one of whom actually traveled with the party for a while. But yeah, that can be a thing you do to your players as a game master. I'm keeping an eye on the time. Yes. At the very heart of cottagecore is the concept of safe, cozy, welcoming home. Players' preferences determine what their character's home is like. English homes often have a name rooted in the place itself or whimsy of the owner's present or past. Inspiring might come from a nearby notable tree or other plant, feature, road, or home size, or home site, its size, or character, past or present resident, quotation, etc. You may draw inspiration from a list of names: the Brambers, Briar Rose, the Crete for badgers, Chez moi, French for my house, Dulcis Domus, Latin for sweet home, and Dulcis et decorum est. Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of that. Especially in this time, well, this is before that becomes relevant, luckily. Hidden Cottage, Hillside Cot, The Laurels, Little Windsor, Moss Lodge, Oakroot Burrow, Pishtangle Place, The Red House, River Hall, Sedgefield, Sunflower Holt, Three Pines, Walden, Walsway Cottage, Well House, Willoway, Windhover. In American parlance, I've found that people often use the house number as a reference to it. Just to, like, not even the street name or whatever. They'll just say, oh, you're coming to 323, right? And I'm like, yes. And I know, because these are my parents, I know which street and what town, and so it's a shorthand, and it kind of serves the same purpose as these guys. Sorry, outside. Which I think is interesting. Yeah. Animals sorts may have preferences for living in the trees, above ground, underground, though they often end up elsewhere. For instance, if a pigeon and a hare have chosen to live together, they might dwell in a tree house, the pigeon's natural preference, or a burrow, the hare's, or they may compromise on a conventional cottage. Homes resemble human houses more than animal dens. They offer conveniences such as pantries, hearths, wainscoting, wallpaper, and sometimes even gas jets for lighting the rooms. if you spend a character building token on this in step 7. Animal houses usually seem more modest than comparable humans, with fewer rooms and lower ceilings, but animal non-player characters can have stately homes or even castles. Some animals may even buy a human habitation, usually a one-roomed cottage known as a single pen, and adapt it to their tastes. See Architecture in Chapter 4 for more details. So you can have an underground burrow, but it would be like a hobbit hole burrow, not a like a hobbit hole. These burrows are almost invariably comfortable, dry holes with multiple rooms, connected by meandering corridors. Animals living underground take care to make their homes as welcoming and pleasant for their above ground friends as it is for themselves, with high ceilings, good lighting, and pleasant ingle nooks. Bermed. Many animals whose ordinary counterpart for underground living have found a pleasant compromise in half-buried houses. The lower portion of the house is surrounded by ramped earth or dug into the ground, with conventionally constructed upper portions above for windows. Floors are usually stone, sometimes the lower walls are as well, though the owners can cover them with wainscoting or paint them a cheerful white. Windows of a bermed home usually open at waist height for those inside, but ground level on the outside, which makes for a never-ending battle against insects and ordinary mice sneaking in. Conventional above ground, the basic construction of these animal homes strongly resembles human buildings, just smaller. Cottages or houses, though usually stone, can be brick or half timber and plaster with slate or thatch roofs. Tree houses. Some animals prefer living among boughs and construct charming cottages around the trunk of trees, relying on the major boughs for support. Tree houses often have fewer rooms than underground, bermed, or conventional houses. Expansions consist of adding individual rooms as a separate structure scattered elsewhere in the tree, with ladders and stairs connecting them. Animals living in tree houses often have secure staircase or ladder leading to their front door to help their ground-dwelling friends feel welcome. Stilt houses. Stilt houses were quite common in earlier centuries, especially among waterfowl and woodland animals concerned about wolves and wildcats, back when such beasts still roamed Britain's forest. The house typically stood 6 feet off the ground, often with an ornamental moss or rock garden beneath them. There are most always more than one, no more than a room or two, constructed of stone or wood. Historically, they have had a ladder that the owner could raise for safety when at home, but stairs have replaced them. A newly built stilt house would be seen as nostalgic and quite odd. Bowl houses. Least common house types because it is the least convenient. A bowl house is built into a trunk or bole of an oak tree, elm, chestnut, or other large tree. Often these are the trunks of dead trees, sometimes left artistically jagged at the top. In other cases, rooms, windows, and doors are carved. Carefully into the heartwood of a living tree. The largest bowl houses are only a few rooms, but a single room or two with a kitchen outbuilding on the ground nearby is more common. Vary considerably in size, unrelated to the propensity for the animal living there. Animals often prefer smaller homes as cozier and easier to keep tidy and decorate as they would like. Cottages or cots are at most 3 rooms, kitchen, sitting room, and a bedroom, which is sometimes at the top of a ladder or staircase under the eaves. Houses 1 or 2 stories high with 4 to 6 rooms, kitchen, dining room, parlor, perhaps a library or study, a few bedrooms, one dedicated to guests. The term can also be used to mean homes in general. Then you have mains and halls, very large indeed, with everything from butler's pantries, where the silver is kept, to muniment room, which sounds as though it should have swords and spears arranged artistically on the wall, but in fact is a small room where house and family records are stored. One could have weapons arrayed around the room if one wished. I would assume like munitions, but apparently not. They require a large staff to maintain and are uncommon for animals who usually don't want servants. A character with a mains or a hall needs the is comfortably off peculiarity. They will find that things going wrong with the house inspires a steady stream of troublesome situations and between time problems. Then rooms or flats are uncommon for animals on the riverbank, though not for London animals. Rooms are available chestnut, coat, and nose and tail, all detailed in Chapter 4. It's possible that characters might let or rent a room in their home. Appalling relatives, who are always rich, and other non-player characters may have enormous stately homes and castles complete with butlers, head gardeners, chauffeurs, and the rest. There's a map sheet beside where your home is situated. One normally finds Stilt's house near water in the woodlands. Bowl houses are more common, larger tracts of trees. If you have amphibious or aquatic innate personality, you may prefer to stay close to the river or one of the streams. If you share a space with another character, list them here, and any information about the relationship your friends would know. This game master would play a non-player character housemate to consult them before you develop one. So if you want to have a non-player character who also lives in the house, You have to tell your game master that ahead of time. Heart of your home. What makes your house home to you? The oak kitchen table with the oil lamp and the string of onions and herbs hanging above it. The hearth and ingle nook. Okay, what is an ingle nook? Let's see. Cotswold homes often have ingle nooks, which were brick and stone lined hearths large enough to sit in, with the fire or stove at the center and built in benches or wooden chairs to the sides. The brick or stone holds the heat and makes them very cozy little space, but an ingle nook gets rather cluttered with pet beds, water kept warm for washing, large pots too awkward to go anywhere else, and the like. Interesting. Huh. Um, the comfortable seats right next to the fire, the rose arbor, your great grandmother's rosewood plate cupboard. This is the heart of your home. Just fun little details that make your house, your home, your home. Um, describe it. A vehicle. Most animals do not have vehicles. As an animal, you are good at walking and perhaps even flying. You do not feel inclined for a long ramble. Humans have all sorts of solutions you can access, if you do feel inclined. Trains, horse-drawn omnibuses, and even motor buses. Plus, humans with carriages, carts, or motor vehicles are often happy to offer you conveyance. Just, have a friend who has a car. But sometimes that isn't enough. Sometimes an animal craves speed, the wind in your fur, and the real risk of death. Or more pragmatically, a way to get across the river without having to cross the dangerous weir is a very scary indeed. It is a sort of dam across the river that water flows over. If one can believe what one reads in British crime novels, it seems to be a daily thing for bodies to be crushed against the weir or sucked beneath the rolling waters on either upstream or downstream side, to turn up later, waterlogged and grisly, for the detective to goggle at. Okay. So it's a sort of dam, and if you can kind of go across the top, but walk all the way to the King's Bridge in the village. The humbler the transport, the more likely it is that someone makes an animal-sized version. Bicycles small enough for animals are quite common, but motorboats are less so, and animal-sized motor cars do not exist at all, except as handcrafted projects that can't safely travel on the road. Despite this, in RiverBank World, it is feasible that, for example, a toad can manage a human motor car, a canal boat, or even a train. Alright. Type. Let's see. So if you have a vehicle, you have a motorboat, a rowing boat, a punt or sailing boat, bicycle or boat. There's a sidebar on boats. Yes. And then you have to put the character building tokens if you want one. 1 for bicycle, 2 for motorcycle, 3 for boat, 3 for rowboats, and 5 for motorboat, I think is what it was. And then you have details. Color, construction techniques. Just as with humans, animals' boats usually have a name, even the smallest of them. Most motorized vehicles have makers and marks. Use these examples to inspire you to draw from. The Corbeau brothers, yes. Yes, motorboats. And, yes, these are names for things. Last £5 sea pigeon. Souvenirs. When the Game Master awards knickknacks for your character at the end of a situation, described in Chapter 2, record them here. Some may be useful tools, while others are ornamental objects. Service concrete record of achievements. Section allows you to tally up your current character building tokens. So, there's that. Complete and share your character sheet, and then give it to your DM. You have characters, dotted I's, crossed all the T's. Earn experience points and going up levels. Awards for good gameplay or role-playing are not character advancement, but tokens used to acquire things you want. Souvenir knickknacks display proudly in your charming homes. So, yeah, if you have enough sessions and you build up your character building tokens, which are like XP, if you save them up, you can have gas jets in your house, which is kind of cool. If you can hire a guy to come in and put in, and then you can have, like, gaslighting, and not the sketchy sort where you change the levels and then don't tell the other person you did, and then they tell them, oh, it's changed, and like, no, it was always that way, and then they get a little weirded out because you're psychologically messing with them, which is where that term comes from, by the way. And then, but just having nice lights. And you don't have to turn the stove on every time you want to cook, or you don't have to, like, light the stove. You can have a pilot and just kind of turn the knob, which is nice. Yes, the RiverBank Year game, which you play in the same characters for multiple sessions. The Game Master may offer chances to change peculiarities, snacks, and pets. Okay. You also participate in Seasonal Reckoning, which time you evaluate progress toward goals and perhaps identify some new ones. Alright. Let's see. So yes. There is 6 pregens. Mr. Temple Arbus, Celestine Gray, comfort-loving pigeon, Mrs. Celestine Gray, Miss Eliza von der Hedgepig, a hedgehog, great charm and flightiness, Miss Dahlia P. Mole, a Lady Mole novelist. Mr. Edmund St. Andrews, Bachelor Fox. Mr. Wim Wallpaper Wasselford, an elegant lizard. These pre-gen characters are as complete as any player-generated character would be, including basic stats, appalling relatives, details about their families, homes, and interests. All of them are associated with non-player characters introduced in Chapter 3. For instance, Temple is one of the numerous Arbus clan mentioned in Mr. Arbus's description. Mrs. Arbus's description. Player choose is a pre-generated character. The game master and player decide to whether to accept all of the facts on the sheet. For instance, a player selecting Miss Dahlia can determine whether she does, in fact, live with Miss Letilia Rabbit at Sunflower Cottage, as the sheet states. Instead, the players may design her home, and or the game master might replace Miss Rabbit with someone else. If you are not using the pre-generated character sheets, the game master may incorporate them into RiverBank's population of non-player characters. And if you want to find the sheets, you can go to RPG if you want to go find character sheets. Okay, locales and situations. The rules. Now we're getting to the meat and bones of this stuff. RiverBank gameplay emphasizes the opportunities for entertaining social interactions, escalation, and resolution of chaos. The cottage core heart of the game suggests the nature of this interaction chaos. The sort of trouble animals, capital A, encounter looks less like confronting the Witch King of Angmar in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, The Lord of the Realms by J.R.R. Tolkien, though any RiverBank animal can, with complete truth, say, I am no man, so perhaps it would work out. Oh, that's true. Um, and more like, say, competing for ribbons at the St. Alduin's Day fete in the village. The rules of the game help you sort out whether adventures the characters get into, be they fairly frivolous, truly terrifying, and perhaps both at once. The characters may be convinced disaster looms, even when the stakes are actually somewhat minor. You already met some of the rules when you created your character, your sort of animal, your peculiarities and knacks, basic stats. As you will see in this chapter, these elements affect how you perform deeds, and the consequences if you fail. Some rules in this chapter will feel familiar to players of other tabletop role-playing games. For instance, RiverBank's knacks work the way skills or abilities do in many other games, and deeds are like actions. Others may seem new, such as assigning stats to deeds randomly, the animal poetry range, side effects, and haphazardry. All these new and familiar elements come together to support your characters as they shape their world and tell their stories. Let's see. Game sessions. As your animal came to life in the previous chapter, you, the player, probably had some ideas about how you, the character, would prefer to spend your days if nothing got in the way. How do you spend the perfect summer afternoon? Painting a landscape, fishing for ancient pike at the bottom of the pike pond, or making a picnic for friends. In the wintertime, when the snow simply won't stop, what then? Go sledding? Sort through your linens? Embark on an ambitious reading plan of the novels of Sir Walter Scott that evolved into daily afternoon long naps? As they always do. But sometimes something always does get in the way. Even a plan as simple as crumpets and tea with friends can turn into an evening's worth of trouble and adventure. You might realize that you are low enough on tea and go in search of more, only to find that Buzzy the bull has gotten out in the field again and is stamping around in your garden. Your friend might want to share their latest bagpipe solo, summoning every ordinary dog in the area. Or they might come bustling with news that changes everything, sending you both off at a run. You might hear a knock at the door and open it to a squirrel with a telegram, or even a human, hands on knees, bent low and peeking in as to ask if they've seen their pet rabbit. It might start raining, revealing a hitherto unsuspected leak in the thatch that you must address immediately. In fact, there are a lot of ways anything at home can go awry. Sounds fun. RiverBank RPG supports cozy, collaborative, role-playing centered experiences with a sense of farce or kind of humor. Farce has come to mean a lot of things in modern parlance, but at its most basic, it describes a comic story with an improbable plot and sorts of humors that such story encourages. It can also mean savory stuffing for a cooked bird, for reasons that aren't as entertaining as any speculation you might make. It's like, sorry, we had when I went to school, sometimes they would prepare what's called bread dressing, because they couldn't call it stuffing because they cooked it separately from the bird, so they wouldn't call it stuffing, they call it bread dressing. So, the more you know. Farce, apparently, is a secondary term for that. But, yeah, cramming the cavity of a roasted bird full of bread is absolutely delicious. And it's just the season for it. Canadians have Thanksgiving, which is a traditional big feast with a roasted bird, in October. Americans have it in the end of November. So ours is coming up in a few weeks, and the day after, which is hell for me because I work in the um, shipping things industry, and it is the buying things time of year. So when everyone buys presents for each other, which is great, gifting people things to people is nice, but it means that they have to be cataloged and shipped, and that falls to me personally as part of a greater organization, and it means we get busier and have more work and have to go faster paced and longer hours and oh, sorry, it's coming up. Okay. Structurally, a farce usually starts with a minor goal. Characters in pursuit of the goal triggers increasingly outrageous events that are randomized by coincidences and the actions of everyone around them. By the end, often the initial goal has been rendered irrelevant or lost entirely in their brush of enjoyable chaos, but there's always a resolution of some sort. The best classic situation comedies and many comedy films have this structure. As discussed in Chapter 5, RiverBank uses farce structure, but the game can focus on coziness rather than excitement. Game encourages no stakes and low stakes role playing. Playing lawn bowls, which is I think similar to bocce. If you are familiar with the European games bocce or pentak, bowls are quite like that. Throwing a ball across an area toward a target ball with the goal of getting your ball closer than anyone else's does. There is no way a game like this can possibly go wrong. Oh, yes, a game of bocce. I've played before. My parent, we have a very nice set that we often will play. We didn't play it all this year. We went to the Cape and we never played, and dang, I miss it. I guess you can play it in the fall, but it's more of a summer thing because it's outdoorsy and the weather has to be good and stuff like that. But it's quite fun. Oh yes. Rearranging your sitting room, hunting for interesting rocks, going for a scramble. But it also supports many higher stakes, comparatively speaking, scenarios called situations. Situations are rooted in the circumstances of the animals' lives, the landscapes and neighborhoods, the seasons and festivals, and their occasional interaction with the wide world, where the humans are, in the village, town, also known as London, and other places. Situations usually start small and seemingly easy enough. Baking a fancy cake for a competition in honor of the king's birthday, going to town to have a dentist look at your teeth, hosting a holiday party, dealing with a troublesome guest. Things inevitably escalate. Normally, you can play through a situation to its unpredictable conclusion in a single gameplay session. 2 to 5 hours you and your friends have decided to spend playing online or in person, but others may take longer. This depends on how much time your group likes to spend interacting at the start of the session or during game. Regardless, the length session has the basic structure. Between times, the Game Master fills in details about the time between sessions, and the players catch up on the character's doings and draw between time cards. Introducing the situation. The Game Master describes the situation and explains the goals and stakes at hand. Then the Catalyst character gets things moving. The plot thickens. Things happen, things get worse, some complications are driven by situation, as documented in the situation notes. See Chapter 5. Some complications happen due to the character's actions, role-playing, and deeds. Some complications take place thanks to the game's design. Examples include haphazardry, as well as the side effects of from failures and summering pother. Simplifiers. If needed, the Game Master offers situational simplifiers from the notes. Consequences. Yes, sometimes the Game Masters kind of put their thumb on the scale to keep it from getting too out of hand. The characters find themselves at a natural end to the situation. They may or may not have achieved the goal. Coda. The Game Master awards character building tokens and knickknacks. And everyone just kind of settles in for, okay, we figured it out. The intent is to generate a fun, chaotic misadventure with multiple things going wrong, escalating in a manner of good farce or sitcom, and ending with a satisfying, if unexpected, resolution. Between times. Part of the appeal of cottagecore is as an aesthetic and lifestyle is the rejection of the stress and trauma of the world where we poor modern-day humans live in. Lifestyle first appeared in 1915, and although German word Lebensstil was used from 1849. Yes, Germans tend to have useful words like that. This sort of thing is very trying to the author, who would prefer not to use words from after 1913 or so, and yet she just used cottagecore in the same sentence. Really, what is the use? Oh. The riverbank is a place where we might want to live, at least some of the time, and its animals' characters are people we might want to be or befriend. We can see the riverbank game as a chance to step into the lives for a bit before returning to our own. But what if their lives in the interlude between game sessions? Most sessions play out a situation, or part of one, but how do the characters occupy themselves when life on the riverbank rolls by without such extraordinary events? You, the player, may not be present in those um, inter inter intersites, but the character is eating breakfast, going for walks, corresponding, buying cooking pans, playing hearts. This is between times. Okay, it's gonna bug me. We're gonna do a vocabulary lookup real quick. Um, I am not. It's always a fool. For me, whenever I do something like this, either on this channel or my own, to think I can actually, uh, intrustus, a space, especially a small hour in between things or parts. Intrustices, between the ordination of man and ordination to the priesthood. Oh, wait, between yes, it's between when you become a deacon and when you become a full priest. Interstices, interstices. Okay, that's about how you pronounce it. All right, learn words. Um, uh, Eating breakfast, yes, between times. Some riverbank groups will focus more on coziness and comfort than farce and frivolity, using between times to explore the smaller events of the characters' lives. Other groups will race through the between times to get to the hijinks that much more quickly. Either way, the between times happen. The events shape and reflect the characters and sometimes alter characters slightly for a coming session. For instance, when someone gains a short-term bonus or penalty consequence of a between times card. Breaking into 5 parts. So the Game Master decides how much time has elapsed. RiverBank calendar to determine if any important events have occurred in the interim, fairs, festival days, holidays, etc. The Game Master may choose instead to decide that this end of the previous session so the players know ahead of time. Yes. The Game Master determines what happened since the last time by rolling on 2 tables found below. Environment, weather and changes to the neighborhood, and denizens, changes within the animal and human population of the Riverbank village. The Game Master also shares any calendar events from Chapter 5. Events from these tables and calendar could easily develop into an impromptu adventure on their own. Finally, the Game Master secretly rolls on the preset encounters table for random encounter to introduce later. So, figure out what's happened since last time. Each player shares the news. In other words, what their character has been up to since the last adventure. This may be a decision made, a visit or vacation, a new activity or development in a relationship, etc. If the character's change involves another player's character, both players must agree out of game that the change is acceptable. No one can alter their relationships with appalling relatives in the between times. If you are summoned to their side in the between times card, any changes to the relationship is described there. Each player draws a between times card. If this gives them a reason to alter their news, they can do so. If a between times card dictates a short-term change to their characteristics, the player records this and shares it with the Game Master. So this is the environment table. Odd weather phenomena such as sundogs. What are sundogs? Small pearly halo around the sun. It's visible in certain kinds of cold weather. No dogs are harmed in the making of sundog, but the author does wonder why they're called that. Beautiful auroras appeared in the northern sky one night, and everyone the next day extremely tired. Every time folks got together, that's what they talked about. A coin of great antiquity was found in the field. It might be Roman or Mercian, or from somewhere else more distant. Spooky lights appeared in the wild wood. Were they will-o'-wisps, campfires of ruffians, or something eerie? It has been unseasonably cold. It has been unseasonably hot. It has been very wet, and people worried about flooding, but it seems to have inundated only the water meadows. A burrow or 2 got wet. There has been flooding. Homes near the river got a bit wet, and everyone's still cleaning up after that. It is dry enough that folks are worrying about this year's or next year's crops. It has been overcast for ages, and everyone is getting tired of it. A windstorm blew through, and a lot of trees lost branches. A few animals' tree houses were damaged. There's been a sudden massive influx of some ordinary animal appropriate to the season. Caterpillars or mayflies, cicadas or locusts, beetles or starlings, or crows. They're everywhere. Many animals kept away have had a runny nose for a few days. Alarmists and hypochondriacs feel it's serious, but it doesn't seem to be. Just a cold going around. There's a cough running through the village. Alarmists and hypochondriacs feel that it's serious, but no one else worries. Village church roof is leaking again. Scaffolding is going up. Funds are being solicited. The village, being the human one, Busy the Bull, see Chapter 3, got out and went on a bit of rampage. A chase ensued, causing slight property damage. An unfamiliar ordinary animal showed up for a few days, escaped from a zoologically minded pier some distance away. It might have been a kangaroo, a bison, capybara, a wildcat, or something else. Oh, an escaped zoo animal. A minor fire in the village did a bit of damage, and everyone's been talking about it ever since. Something happened to the telegraph/telephone wires, so telegrams and telephone calls weren't available for a few days. A family of ordinary foxes moved into the riverbank and were haunting the riverwalk, frightening the more timid animals. Capital A. Something mysterious or unknown was carried down the river, to the curiosity of all. A rare celestial event occurred, such as a comet or lunar eclipse. Everyone wanted to see it, and there was hot competition for the few telescopes in the best spots for viewing. A few tempers flared. A seasonally appropriate plant, lichen, or mushroom grew in enormous quantity this year. It's been used in new jams and jellies, dyes for clothing, and so forth. People are starting to get tired of it. There's a problem with the lock on the village, so no human boats have been ventured above the lock. Oh, lock is in the boat thing, not lock is in that. The other ones. Due to a strike among brewers, there have been no deliveries for ale for a while. The only beer still available in the area is unlicensed ale made from at the boozing ken in the Wildwood. Ooh. Seems like someone stole a pruning snoot from Mrs. Grundy's garden. See Chapter 3. For a day or two, constables got on the way everywhere, even in the riverbank. But then she found where it had fallen behind the rain barrel, and they went away. The postal service roof at the Chestnut started leaking. Ordinary mice or beetles overran the store at Chestnut, and for a while you couldn't buy flour or sugar. One of the ferry mutts, see crossing the river sidebar in Chapter 4, went missing for a few days. No one could figure out what happened to it until it reappeared at the ferry crossing. Animals have been rather giving one another side-eye about hogging it for themselves. Ordinary moles were digging up the stick green. Everyone argued about how to get rid of them since no one wanted to actually hurt them. A fairy ring, a circle of mushrooms, appeared in the middle of the cricket pitch south of Stick Green. Everyone argued about how to get rid of it. A few lovers of the unexplained think doing so might summon angry fairies, though no one else believes in fairies. An animal, capital A, claims that they saw hoopoe, a very rare bird indeed. Animal and human bird watchers have been flocking to the area. Local animal discovered a new cave up past Clippus. They have been eager to show it to interested animals. A wagon that broke an axle on the Oxford Road managed to block the entire roadway for a full day until it was repaired. Local animals enjoyed the spectacle of vehicles trying to skirt the obstacle or turn around in the narrow roadway. An animal walking by the river found an expensive-looking object, such as a fancy wallet or golden pencil. No one knows whose it is, so now it's on the wall behind the register at the postal services stores. A very loud and mysterious sound was heard in the distance. It stalked the neighborhood, animals and humans. Lightning struck an abandoned shed in the area. All Twitter, the animals have begun installing lightning rods around their own homes. So yeah, something wonky happened, and this is what you get. Example. Ooh. The Game Master, Jen. Hey. That's fun. Spelled with a J, not a G, like our Jen, but is game mastering, and calls the regular Tuesday game to order. Players are Antia, playing Staggers McPhee, a weasel of dubious reputation. Bram, playing Miss Delphinia Answer, a poetically inclined bat. And Con, playing Mr. Warren P. Warren, an otter of unusual size. Jen announces that 2 weeks have elapsed on the riverbank since last Tuesday's game. Let's see, rolls on environment and denizens table. It tells everyone that the weather has been unusually warm and that there's a new human curate at St. Aldwyn's Church. Consulting calendar shows that over the last 2 weeks, the humans held the Mop Fair, where the region's workers and employers came to the village to arrange for new employment over the next year, and simultaneously have a party. To the animals, this meant that there were a lot of human strangers floating around. Based on the time available, and the group's preferred cozy to mayhem ratio, Jen might choose to elaborate on any of these with details, events, and consequences. Since Jen loves making up stories, she tells her players about what happened the day of the fair, when a gaggle of inebriated shepherds fell asleep in the garden of an old Mrs. Porlock, a goose NPC, and she made them weed the entire garden the next day, hangovers and all. Now Antje shares Stagger McPhee's news. For the last 2 weeks, she has been repairing a wrecked human-sized motorcycle. Stagger McPhee. He found an abandoned human-sized motorcycle so that he can sell it and buy a gramophone. Um, let's see. Antje, uh, then draws up a Tringham card and reads, "Someone new has arrived in the neighborhood specifically to see you. Who are they? Why did they visit you? Did they need something or to tell you something or give you something? How long did they stay? Did they stay with you or elsewhere in the riverbank?" So that's what happens when you draw a card. It's something like that. Uh, Antje, or Jen, or you could have the DM do it, explains that a human came to see Staggers about the motorcycle, as theirs has been stolen, and they rather wondered whether this might be theirs. It isn't, but they offered to buy the wreckage and fix it up themselves. Staggers had a decision to make: keep working on it and perhaps make more from the finished bike, or sell it now. The decision might change Antje's idea of how Staggers spent the 2 weeks, and she might review Staggers' news. Bram and Khan do the same, describe their characters' activities, then draw between time cards and incorporate that to their between time stories. Okay. Generate changed action players didn't expect, such as unanticipated summons, a new acquaintance, a minor ailment, etc. Players' news about their characters during the between times comes first, and if everything goes well, that's exactly what happens. But between times cards may force them to alter their plans, just as we all do. For example, if your news included going to town and you drew a between times card that says you sprained your paw, you might decide that you sprained your paw in town, or that you need to hobble about town with your paw in bandage, cursing your fate, or you might not have been able to go into town after all. Between times cards may offer short-term benefits or impairments that affect the game session. Strained paw might give a character -1 penalty on valor discretion, as it's still kind of healing. If you don't have an official RiverBank between times deck, let's see, standard playing card deck after, and refer to Appendix 2. So you get the 52 card deck, and then it has a introduction. After between times, what you might think of as the main event begins, a scenario or adventure planned and perhaps designed by your game master. This adventure is the situation you find yourselves in. Chapter 6 includes various complete situations ready to play, designed for a game master who would like extra support or didn't have a lot of time to prepare. It also features scenario seeds that leave more up to the game master's imagination. And then, denizens. So you also roll the denizens. You roll 2. I said denizens 1. Let's see. NPC got a new pet, which is still being trained, likes to hide in other houses or misbehave. NPC lost their pet and everyone went out to find it, which took D6 days. Pet in the neighborhood died of old age, and there was some discussion for a tasteful funeral. NPC hosted a long-term guest for D4 months. The NPC has been arranging events to keep them amused, which may have involved characters. NPC started a new club, such as a book club, savings club, painting club, etc. They invited characters to join. The club may or may not be thriving. An NPC went to town for D10 days. When they came back, everyone wanted to hear the latest news, fashion, etc. An NPC went to Tunbridge Wells for 10 days to drink the waters for their health. When they came back, everyone wanted to hear the latest news, fashion, etc. 2 NPCs had a disagreement about something. Each has been bustling about RiverBank trying to convince people they were on the side of right. An NPC's house in the neighborhood lost part of its roof, and everyone has been busy trying to help with repairs. The latest of Jane Hyver's girls was found to have stolen a book from the lending library at Sunflower Cottage. Drama. Old Puck vanished for a few days. It turned out that he had stowed away on a canal boat south of the village lock. It took more than a few days to get him to come home again. Miss Tivolia Miggle went away to have one of her talks on poetry. She returned with quite exciting new hat. Peter Norgad has a foreign guest who doesn't speak any English at all. He keeps wandering about the neighborhood and getting lost. An appalling relative summoned an NPC to visit for 2 D20 days. An appalling relative came to visit an NPC for 2 D20 days, and the NPC has been arranging events to try to amuse them, which have involved characters. An appalling relative has given money to an NPC, and they're excited, telling everyone about their new plans for the money. A conflict has erupted in the local club, such as a book club, savings club, etc. While primarily between 2 NPCs, it expanded to touch many. A sporting event, such as a darts competition, cricket match, rowing contest, etc., dominated the RiverBank's attention for a bit. If it took place, the results were not to everyone's liking. Satan the Goat came in from the postal service stores and terrorized everyone. A new animal moved to RiverBank, a capital A. Everyone is excited. Someone in the village got a new dog, which frequently gets loose. That's the humans. Everyone has been feeling exceptionally cheerful and sprightly. An animal was lost for a while, causing much worry, but it turned out to have been summoned by their appalling relative. Ooh. An NPC started a new business of some sort. Sprained a paw or got quite ill. An NPC did. A human in the village had a baby and everyone was talking about it. Everyone's been a bit bored, which has caused some odd arguments. Someone long gone from the RiverBank has returned for a visit. Madame Anthema has made a dire prediction about the future, which all the animals were talking about. An NPC went off visiting. When they came back, they brought a new piece of technology or another person. A visiting inventor, animal or human, has come to the area to test some new contraption far away from competitors' prying eyes, requiring a lot of open spaces. A squire, a human, has been on an improving. The squire, a human, has been on an improving kick, rebuilding cottages here and there. The squire, a human, posted a public day. Everyone, local, animal, and human, was rather expected to visit. The oldest human inhabitant of the village died, and everyone was talking about it. A new human moved to the village. Everyone seemed suspicious. When the vicarage attic was cleaned out, some secret came to light that gotten all the village humans in a kerfuffle. A human spiritualist came to the area and gave seances. Some animals attended. A human naturalist, painter, or poet came to the region for art or science and has been getting in everyone's way. The village lending library, inside Tats, received a bequest of books one is said to be 1,000 years old. A human horse-drawn caravan travelers came to the village and set up in the green for a while. The village has suddenly come to the attention of the wide world as an example of charming gardens, architecture, or landscape. A flurry of visitors arrived from town and even farther abroad. A human from the village was lost, and there was great search for them. A local animal claims to have seen fairies up at Strawberry Vale. Someone had a dream predicting the future. A space opened up on the planning committee for an upcoming festival or event. 2 NPCs have been jockeying for the post. Local politics. A former resident of RiverBank has written a book. Local animals have all been trying to get their paws on a copy to see whether anyone they know is in it. Madame Sansonnet is developing a new recipe for her tea shop. A lot of smoke and strange aromas have been coming from there. A local animal has mislaid a purportedly valuable stamp collection. After making wild accusations of theft, the owner found it in a closet. An NPC fell from a ladder and hit their head, and now they suffer from amnesia, causing quite the stir. A large, extremely heavy pottery urn decorating the veranda at Toad Hall has gone missing, causing quite the stir. Alright. Long or short. Yes. So that's what happens with villages. Then, if you go... That's the thing. Let's see. You introduce the situation. Yes. Let's see. Just gotta keep an eye on things. Long or short, situations all share certain elements. A situation starts with either exciting or regrettable. An exciting situation seems positive or neutral, at least at the start, competing in a contest, getting a package, receiving a welcome invitation. A regrettable situation seems bad from the beginning. Summons from an appalling relative, a toothache, a leak in your roof. The situation has a goal and stakes. Objectively, the stakes may seem overwrought or silly, but for the characters, they are significant enough to drive them to do their chaotic best. Is it really so bad to spend the winter with an appalling relative in Morocco? Is it making a tart for your friend worth getting this head up over, since they'll love you even if it is burnt? Not even the characters think everything is important, and yet they find themselves swept up in acting as though it were so, just as we all do from time to time. For instance, a very important party, described in Chapter 6, the goal is for the characters to throw a party that helps one of them gain a guest of honor's assistance in a vital project. Only one character hopes for the benefit, but everyone else ends up in a frenzy as well. The situation is usually started by a catalyst character. Which character is the catalyst depends on the circumstances of the situation. It may be the character with the highest or lowest score in a particular stat, one with a specific peculiarity or knack, or someone else. On rare occasions, the trigger is external, such as a sudden snowstorm that everyone encounters at the same time. Okay. Yes, a commencement. This including event is performed by the catalyst character in whatever manner that suits their nature, but should get everyone involved as quickly as possible. The notes for a situation outline the adventure for the game master and offers a description they can read, paraphrase, or pass on to the players, but the situation really starts when the catalyst character does something to get the ball rolling. The game master uses the situation notes to determine which character becomes the catalyst. This usually relates in some way to the adventure or its start. For instance, the situation starts with a bit of gossip, might involve the character with the highest charm status catalyst, on the assumption that their charisma makes them someone people gossip with. The catalyst character for a situation about someone new coming to RiverBank might have the highest intrepidity stat, the has wanderlust peculiarity, or the outdoorsy knack. Perhaps they were wandering about and met the stranger before anyone else. Some situations might start simply with characters played by the person to the left or right of the game master. Very few externally driven situations, such as a snowstorm, flood, or fate, might start with everyone aware at the same time. The player, or the game master, if the player prefers, can determine how exactly the catalyst gets things going. They may be off on their own buying postage stamps or tramping in the wood, or they might be with one or more of their friends, i.e., the other characters. If the group as a whole is not present for the start, the other player characters describe what they're going to do and where they are. Again, they may be together, and it will end up be up to the catalyst to collect them. Most characters will have a different idea of how the day was going to go, but the animals of RiverBank are affectionate, loyal, and curious, and will drop their plans for their friends. The plot thickens. The adventure evolves when the game master and players collaboratively develop the situation into a story. Situations have goals such as get the king's birthday cake onto the 5:37 train tomorrow morning, or get through Old Greeny's day without trauma, or disaster. Note that the situations notes don't suggest how to attain this goal, and sometimes the characters do fail, alas. This action all happens as players describe or roleplay their characters waffling about, saying and doing things, sometimes ill-advised, and getting into trouble of driver's sorts. Into this disorder, the game master inserts information about places, people, and events as it becomes relevant to the situation. While the player's decisions drive the action, the notes for each situation describe internal revelations, developments, and plot twists that can complicate things. For instance, in a very important party, Chapter 6, complications include getting things like running out of food, an easily offended guest, and the guests of honor failing to show up. Some of these complications touch a single character in ways that affect the group's ability to function, such as sending the character with the highest pother off on a tangent. The game master can insert situational complications whenever they have the most entertaining or dramatic effects. The game master also manages the mechanics when the character action rise to level of deeds, described in just a bit. Most of the time, a player does things without them rising to the status of deeds and requiring a die roll. Because RiverBank prioritizes collaborative construction of a cozy, fun-filled experience, the game master can set expectations that many or most activities may be role-played or hand-waved, but there will be times when the game master determines the proposed activity is a deed. In other words, that it is challenging, important, or urgent enough to require a roll. If the situation is getting incoherent in ways that start to frustrate the players, the game master may offer a redirection. The game master also in charge of haphazardry cards and a haphazardry timer, which can be a timer on a phone or computer, a mechanical kitchen timer, or something similar. Let's see. The author prefers mechanical timer as the tick becomes quite unnerving for the players. Hourglass might also be fun. The game master sets this timer to go off at regular intervals throughout the session, usually about every 30 minutes. On the higher end, if your group spends more of its time role playing, less if the group is driven by getting things done, or if the situation emphasizes farce and manic escalations. The game master can change the intervals as desired and can even trigger the timer early if there's a longer in the game. The player should not see the timer. Each time the timer goes off, the haphazard cycle ends and a number of things happen. Oh, so you can't have an hourglass, because then the players could see it. Or you put it behind the GM screen. Although I would say perhaps having an hourglass might be like a good kind of mental fuss. Like, oh, yes, actually. The players jump in their seats. Any knacks they used for deeds in the last haphazard recycle resets. Characters have access to all their knacks. Any character in absolute animality or absolute poetry at the cycle's end becomes somewhat functional again, returning to the AP range at -4 or +4 respectively. More on this later. Animals at other places in the range remain where they are. Any effects that last for a single cycle, such as from the last haphazardry card drawn, all go away. The game master draws a haphazardry card and puts it in play. Haphazardry cards, which may include a choice of effects, introduces random happenings into the situation. They include things like the character with the highest charm suddenly realizes they are a little bit fatigued, and when they bring this up, everyone else does too. If a character attempts something that rises to the level of a deed, the players to their left instead must attempt an action first. It starts raining or snowing, imposing a +1 difficulty modifier on outdoor deeds. An object related to something the characters are trying to do at the moment breaks. They need a replacement, a repair, or a workaround. Until the upcoming haphazard recycle ends, all deeds must be collaborative with 2 or more players involved. An unwanted non-player character animal appears and must be gotten rid of. If you don't have an official haphazard deck, they have a standard playing card deck and Appendix 3. Simplifiers. Once the action gets underway, the Game Master may insert situational simplifiers if needed. These appear in the situation notes, but the Game Master may develop or improvise new ones if desired. These revelations or changes simplify some part of the situation, which can help focus gameplay and bring on a situation to a conclusion. Simplifiers are discussed more in Chapter 5, but as an example, a very important party situation mentioned earlier, a simplify includes a change in the weather that provides easy access to the guests of honor and discovery of previous acquaintance between the guest and one of the characters, which leads the guest to look favorably upon vital project. In time, the characters complete the task or resolve the problem. At any rate, they become to an ending point. RiverBank is fundamentally cozy, so even abject failure, which is unlikely, ends with the friends heaving a collective sigh and returning to their safe, happy, fun-filled lives. After the situation conclusion, the Game Master assigns rewards. It does not use experience points as some games do, but the character does earn souvenirs. First, as every situation or session is completed, characters receive character building token, which they can save toward acquiring exceptional things they might want. You saw this list in the Capture Objects of Desire table, where you applied tokens to things like motorcycle, pet, or gas jets in your home. At this time, the Game Master may also award knickknacks. Characters can use or display souvenirs for the adventure. Situations don't usually specify some mementos a character might acquire as a result of the situation. For example, for a situation taking place at Animal's annual stick fair, knickknacks might include a statuette that is just the thing for your mantelpiece, a prize you won at one of the game stalls, a really exceptional new cooking knife, and so forth. After characters complete a number of situations, they will have accumulated a collection of bric-a-brac, each piece a happy reminder of some event. While much of what happens in the situation will be directed by storytelling and role-playing, many actions rise above these gentle waves of informality to the sterner rigor of deeds. Deed is an important or difficult thing characters trying to do. Bake a cake might be a deed, so might drive a motor car, write a letter to the king, look for clues, and avoid great Aunt Sophronia at the tea party. Anyone can try almost anything and have a chance at success. Sometimes that chance is very, very small, so small that it approaches zero. Some things simply aren't possible. Unless you have the amphibian innate peculiarity, you won't be able to breathe underwater without technological assistance. In this 1911 to 1913 time frame, diving bells, diving suits, compressed air, and even rebreathers have been used for years, though they are expensive and invariably human-sized. The animals of RiverBank might invent or build their own, but really, why would they? It's pretty muddy down there, and everyone has an amphibious friend or two who can retrieve any fallen anchors or pocket watches. Let's see. You could try to grow to 100 times your current size, but while I can't guarantee that the history of everything this would never ever happen, I can assure that it probably won't happen in this time particular. Following are the steps to attempting a deed. None are very hard, and once you've played out a deed resolution a few times, you won't need to look up much. In fact, this will go quickly. Only after a few iterations of the process, most Game Master judgments come organically, and both player and Game Master find the calculations fast and simple. Important elements of performing a deed are after this. Player declares the deed they want to perform. Game Master determines a scale of the deed, whether this is simple, a single challenge, or complex, which is several deeds rolled separately, which all must succeed in order to complete the action. Whether this is a solo deed, one character alone, or collaborative deed, several characters working together toward a single deed. Or perhaps it is something so simple the Game Master decides it's not considered deed at all, and the character accomplishes automatically. Determines the deed category, calculates the target number, base difficulty, and modifiers for importance, urgency, and oddness, and foes. Player rolls a d4 to determine the challenge stat. The stat they use to build their challenge number. Rather than accepting the rolled stat, they may choose to summon Pother instead, in which case they use Pother as the challenge stat, and later earn side effects from the summoning Pother side effects table. Player generates the challenge number by adding together challenge stat score, bonuses from any knacks used, modifiers for innate peculiarities, insufficiencies, ongoing side effects or conditions, and the sense or charm penalties due to a person's position on the animality poetry range. Results of a d6 roll. Characters either succeed or fail at the deed. Okay, I see. So you put all the numbers together and then you roll a d6, as opposed to a d20. Okay. That means The modifiers are more important than um, the roll, which fair. Succeeds or fails. Ties are considered successful for the character. To avoid a failure, players may buy animality poetry points. For a faux deed involving an Apollo relative, um, players must buy the points before rolling the d6. If the players used animality and poetry points to convert a failure to a success, the game master determines whether the deed aligns to animal or poetry. Then a player rolls the appropriate number of animal poetry dice and applies the results to their range. Finally, the Game Master describes any side effects. If the character failed at the deed, the Game Master checks the consequences using the failure side effects table. If the character summoned Pother, the Game Master rolls on the summoning Pother side effect table. Deeds, categories, selecting challenge states, building target challenge numbers, and special results are described below. Lately, I'll discuss individual and group faux deeds, the animality poetry range, and appalling relatives as foes. Bill, a lizard who gardens for Prosperous Rabbit, has been asked to enter the rabbit's house from the chimney for reasons that made sense at the time. Bill's player tells the game master he intends to climb down the inside of the chimney. The game master decides this is a simple deed of valor, where strength deeds usually belong, and calculates that it is middling difficulty, 7, plus modifiers for the target number of 9. Details on the deeds, okay, so it's difficulty 9. Rolls a d4 and learn that this deed of valor will use intrepidity as a challenge stat. That's a pretty good one, actually. It's only a 3, but his climbing innate peculiarity gives him a +1. That's a 4. Okay. Fortunately, Bill's player rolls a d6 and gets a 5. So that's just what he needed. And challenge number of 9, because it ties, he succeeds. No, he's now covered in soot. Of course he is. Okay. Most deeds require a single challenge by one character, making them simple. But the Game Master may consider task large or complicated enough to need several challenges, making a complex dude. Okay. Then there's deed categories. This is why we... yes. How often players roll. Okay. Deeds of Valor. I'm going to skip ahead for a little bit. Then you have Scale. Okay, required several deed categories. Mending a sail, which is Brainless and Clever Paws, takes 2 hours or longer. If painting a house, let's see. What's best for pacing? How important? Successful completion. Character specific strengths and weaknesses beyond preference. Most are solo deeds. What is a coconut shy? Atypical fet game. Coconut on stands. If they knock the coconut from its perch, they keep it and haul it around for the rest of the fet. For an animal that is only a foot or two tall, winning one is quite the feat. Okay. Okay, collaborative deed. Game Master requires a challenge from everyone, perhaps in different categories. If you build a coconut for the stick fairy with certainly assistance, in this case, the Game Master require you to succeed a braininess deed, a sway deed, making this a complex deed. Then friends, you open to need to perform clever paws or deeds of valor. Learning that summoning Pother can be turned to failed deed into success, a KG player might decide during character creation to maximize their Pother score at the expense of other stats. Then, they think smugly, they can meet most deed target numbers simply by summoning Pother with their maximized Pother stat, thus avoiding buying a P-dice, potentially failing into absolute animality or absolute poetry. However, once such players have experienced the hazards of summoning Pother side effects, they will realize the error of their ways and consider yourself warned. Okay, so there's different categories. Attention, noticing things. Perception, looking for traps. Tracking someone. Staying on task. Catching something out of the corner of your eye. Monitoring cake in the oven. Okay. Braininess is knowing things, finding, learning brain stuff. Having the right book at the right time. Clever Paws is manual dexterity. Legerdemain, acquiring action. Working with tools, sewing, knitting, embroidery, making icing, fly tying, card tricks, etc. Discretion is being sneaky. And then sway as interpersonal interactions. So begging, persuading, haggling, negotiating, social nous, parlay, trickery, wooing, courtship, secretly manipulating your friends for personal agenda. What is? Um, um, okay. Um, yes. Yes. Painting. Okay. But nous is one of those words that doesn't have an exact synonym as English. It derives from the Latin word for mind. Savvy, awareness, sense, knowledgeability. If one refers to Merriam-Webster dictionary, one is also it also means the divine reason regulate regarded in the Neoplatonism of the first emanation of God, which is of no use at all. Um, Valor, fighting, attacking, moving, carrying heavy things, running very fast, hiking through snowstorms, saving someone from drowning, flying, climbing mountains, digging a well. Okay, there's that. Sorry, many deeds often are self-evident. I'm going to shove this pirate off my boat is obviously a deed of valor. I try to predict tomorrow's weather is a brainiest deed. Follow the hare back to its lair, trying not to be seen, discretion. I asked the famous sparrow soprano, Madame Duflinch, to sing at my soiree is a sway deed. Other deeds are more ambiguous, baking a pie, braininess, or clever pause. Um, to some extent, the decision depends on what the game master knows of the character. If Musseliza Vander Hedgepig is being role-played as a home-loving soul, the game master may assume she has a good cookbook or two at home. Therefore, braininess is not the real issue here, it's whether she can physically manage to properly pit cherries and mix and roll the pastry, a clever pause deed. Or if Eliza is known to be a bit flaky, the game master might acquire a detention deed to make sure she doesn't forget the pie in the oven. The game master determines the target number for the deed by deciding how difficult it is to perform. Um, Basic difficulty, importance, urgency, time pressure, um, oddness, how likely are you to have previously thought of this particular deed or anything similar, faux level, um, yes, if there is other people involved, how challenging they are to deal with, whether socially or in a paw fight, faux group size, if multiple, how many, extreme awfulness, if there are any non-player character animals, ordinary animals, or humans are involved. An additional modifier for a group of mainly dire foes. Um, Deeds have a basic difficulty of easy, middling, or hard. Players in the Game Master probably intuitively understand the basic difficulty of most tasks. Convincing the snooty butler to let you into the squire's manor is harder than talking to a friendly footman into it. Building a motor car is harder than driving one. Pulling a punt across the river is harder than walking along the banks, and controlling a motorboat is heavy weather is harder than both. Easy deed is sparring sheriff from amiable humans, selecting about the library for close friend, painting a window frame neatly, which is clever pause, finding a reticule drops down the riverbank, river walk is attention, digging a hole, valor. Okay, locking the door without being observed as a Pauling relative approaches the house. Middling deed, convincing the postmistress to let you take home a package for your housemate, even though she's not technically legal. Selecting a book for a friend who isn't much of a reader, that's a braininess deed. Knocking a hammock. Nodding hammy, hammock is clever pause. Finding a brass button, lost on the riverwalk, attention. Hauling materials for new fence. Hiding from Mr. McGregor in the vegetable garden. Ah, yes, Beatrix Potter reference. Many animals can't do hard deeds, even if they have plenty of time and space to figure it out. Can do something quite surprising things, such as writing songs or knitting coaties. A little coat. Patricia Went is mysteries. Is always making coaties for apparently countless great nieces and nephews. She's a very good great aunt, not an appalling relative. Okay. A little coat. So like cardigans, kind of. But certain actions require beyond a good number of them. For instance, build an entire motor car would likely be hard, no matter how lucky you were or how much you knew about motor cars. Unlocking a door by picking a lock using a hairpin would be hard. The base difficulty is 9. Yes. Convincing a shopkeeper in the village to offer credit, selecting a book from your appalling relative, mending a veil, finding dropped keys somewhere off the riverbank after an afternoon stroll, running through a snowstorm while carrying a heavy parcel, hiding behind an armchair in the same room as your appalling relative. The deed becomes harder as the importance rises. It's not very difficult to open an unfamiliar lock with someone else's keys if nothing much is at stake, but it is harder if you're trying to sneak into an unoccupied house in the middle of the night to replace a necklace you inadvertently pocketed earlier in the evening. Importance can increase the difficulty by +1, +2 for important, or you could add +1 or +2 if it's important. Urgency, +1 urgent or +2. So if there's time constraints. Um, um, Oddness, you can just add a +1. Uh, Similarity may science activities or highly specialized tasks fall outside usual skill set. So +1, you can add a +1. Okay, sorry, I know I'm skimming. I I have a day job, and I really do. I forgot to. I realized that I forgot to tell anyone that I was streaming, so no one who doesn't follow All on the Table knew I was streaming, which is why no one's here in the chat, which is a shame. But the VOD will be up on YouTube right away, which means that anyone who missed it could come and see you later, which is. It's more fun if you have more people in chat. Hopefully, those of you who see it are entertained. But yes, let's see. So if you have one, it's an individual foe deed or group foe deed. One or the other. Yes. Foe levels. Game Master modifies an individual foe deed based on the non-player character's level of confusion, contrariness, or crankiness. Game Master determines whether this is +1, +2, or +3. Negligible foes do not affect the foe deed difficulty. Commonplace is yes. So commonplace, tiresome, and dire are appalling relative is +4. That's for this. Include arguing with the gardener, talking to the postmistress, and letting you have your friend's mail, etc. For tiresome, surly greengrocer, human lady who insists on patting you on the head, etc. Dire is a constable or similar. Appalling relative increases deed's difficulty by +4 and is always treated as an individual foe, even if part of a group. Um, um, but only if it's your appalling relative. Other people's it's a tiresome or dire. For other people, kindly friends might try to step into the between appalling relative and their prey, but this usually makes things worse. Okay. Yes. So when the characters face a group of non-player characters, each character rolls their own deed against the group. In other words, 3 characters against any number of foes calls for 3 deeds. It's modified by the number of foes. Foes group size as many again. The group is up to twice as large as the number of characters involved. A deed performed by 2 characters would be then let's see. 5, 6, 7, or 8. Okay. A lot. 2 and 3 times as large. That's uh yes, okay. 3 to 5 times as large as the number of characters involved, and possibly outnumbered at a certain point. There are just too many. If the group is 5 times larger than the number of characters involved, players can attempt to beat them with several too many group deed checks, but they have to do them, such as using sway or fleeing, if you want to think of an alternative. Okay. Okay. I need to end the stream now, or I will be late for my day job. So I wanted to thank you all for coming. You guys are awesome. I am sorry I did not think to pass on the fact that I was streaming and it was last minute. I did not think of that, but I wanted to dig more into this because it's interesting and like meaty and cool. We're probably gonna do another session. It's probably gonna be I'll talk to Jen, but I think it's gonna be like a regular Thursday thing. For a bit. Parts 1 and 2. Exciting, and then if I can scrounge together a couple more AOTT players, we could even play. That would be fun. But yes, thank you all for listening and being awesome audience. You should follow AOTT. If you're on Twitch, you should go to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you should go to Twitch. Um, Let's see. Oh, if we have 6 more followers, we'll hit 180. That's pretty cool. So you should follow the channel if you're not already following. And poke around. If you're on YouTube, watch the Concord. Yeah, watch Concord. It's a lot of fun. And there's definitely going to be more stream stuff coming later. I don't know when. I have not checked, we haven't had anything through. I might be on again. But yes, thank you all for coming. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, hydrate, and all that jazz. Cheers. Okay, I'm going to sign off. And, yeah, rather than raid, we're going to sign off. But thank you. Yeah, thank you. And indulging me in this. And it's very exciting, and I hope you find... it's very exciting. I hope you're finding